Welcome back to My Hidden Agenda. This is Dana, and in this episode, I am going to be doing the first of a handful of book reviews because I really like to read, and I found that there are a lot of great books out there that just explore the concept of gender and gender variance in just some really heartfelt, personal, and dynamic ways. There are a handful of authors out there that have given me a lot of insights and breakthroughs, and I'd like to share them. So I'm going to start with this book. It's S/He, Changing Sex and Changing Clothes. It's written by Claudine Griggs. And this is a book that I picked up at a Borders bookstore in Chicago back in the summer of 2001. Now, at the time, I had been reading a lot of just more informal information about transgender issues online, and there were a lot of great resources out there, even in 2001, but it was also really frustrating because what I wasn't finding was a lot of information describing what I was going through with my gender dysphoria. And what I definitely wasn't finding anywhere was someone who I could identify with and relate to, who was really just going through what I was going through and just describing the experiences that I was having with, doubt and questioning that were just tormenting me so much back in that summer. So I really can't stress how alone I felt when I was 21 years old back in 2001. I just had absolutely no confidence that anyone would understand or accept that I had a desire to be female, and I was terrified to even admit it to myself. So when I found Claudine Griggs, that was like finding buried treasure for me. There are a lot of things that her and I probably don't really have in common, but at that moment and with this book, I found really the only voice that came even close to affirming my own emotions. But this book isn't really intended to be a personal work, but it manages to weave her own experiences into the writing in a way that makes it feel really intimate. The main point of the book is to give just a really broad overview of the transgender experience, and she does that really well. She hits on all of the themes, from therapy to hormones to surgeries, and she even talks really intelligently about male to female and female to male experiences, which are just so very different. So, in that respect, this is just an amazingly useful reference guide and just a wonderful introduction for anyone who's interested into a window into that world. I actually don't know of any other book that just takes on just a big and expansive topic just so succinctly and so thoroughly in only 140 pages. But where the book really shines is just the way that none of this information comes across as clinical. It's all deeply informed by her own personal experiences and the experiences of the people that she interviewed for writing the book. She also spends a lot of time talking about the psychological and social aspects of gender that I feel like people just really gloss over, even now. She spends a lot of time talking about just the nuts and bolts of how people judge gender and just why it makes us as humans just so profoundly uncomfortable to break gender norms. And I think this is just really fascinating. But back in 2001, when I was having so much torment about this was just really supremely invaluable information, and it just really helped orient my own just really confused thoughts at that time. Now, I found that I could identify with Claudine Griggs at a time when I couldn't say that about anyone else in the world. And this was in large part because of just the negative emotions that she just expresses really freely in her writing. Now, this book was written in 1998, and she expresses an opinion that was probably really common at that time, that one shouldn't change one's gender unless you feel like you absolutely have to. And today, I think that people probably don't really adhere to that belief quite as strictly. But hearing her just express this just so clearly and so eloquently back then, it really helped inform my beliefs and my personal choices back in 2001. Beyond that, she also just expresses really freely like all of this just sense of bitterness and self-loathing that she's experienced surrounding her gender dysphoria, her decision to transition, and the way that people treat her to this day. She makes it really clear how, for people in this situation, there just really aren't any good options. And that's something that I always identified with. And hearing somebody else say that just felt really, really validating for me. Now, I just feel like a lot of people avoid talking about just these negative emotions that are just such a big part of the transgender experience. And I can understand why, because it's hard. It's really difficult to acknowledge these things and to do that while also trying so hard to be proud and self-empowered as a gender variant person. So for all of these reasons, I think that this is just a landmark piece of writing. And I'm just surprised that, Claudine Griggs in her book aren't mentioned or acknowledged more often in the world of trans issues. In a lot of ways, like, this book has kind of been eclipsed by a lot of other books that have been published since then. But I think that it still really holds up and that it's just a valuable and unique statement. I would really recommend it to pretty much anyone. It's only 140 pages long, and it's actually a quick and really enjoyable read. But Claudine has also written another book, which is an autobiography, and I'm guessing that that talks a lot about her personal experience transitioning, but I don't know, because I haven't read that book, and I've actually never seen a physical copy, and I don't know anybody else who's read any of her writing. So if there's anybody else out there who's read either of her books or who has any other thoughts or opinions about S/he, I am very interested to know and would encourage you to leave some comments. Thank you for watching. Bye.